Hey, this is UNC Tarheel, Pete Chilcutt, and you're listening to The Final Score with Stevie Fly.
What's up, guys? The Final Score is here tonight. We haven't done an interview in a while, and I figured it's time to get back in the interview. We've been doing our weekly shows, but the interviews haven't been up here a lot lately. I am a Carolina basketball fan, diehard Tar Heel, and with me tonight, it's the first time I've done something like this. I mean, I had two Steelers up here at one time, and I haven't had two Tar Heels up here at one time. Now tonight. They came in '83. They left in '87. They were there together. They were like when you saw Wolf, Popson wasn't far behind. You saw Popson, Wolf wasn't far behind. With me tonight is Carolina basketball legends Dave Popson and Joe Wolf. Welcome to the shows, guys.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. I mean, I appreciate you taking time off out of y'all's busy schedule. Let me just get this out of the way. Mr. Popson, where are you at? Where are you located?
In Ashley, Pennsylvania, yes. Northeastern Pennsylvania.
You wouldn't be a Steeler fan, would you?
Actually, I do follow the Steelers. I follow the Eagles. I follow all the Pennsylvania football teams. Yes, I do.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Wolf? Or Coach? I'll call you Coach.
I am a cheesehead. I am in the house that I grew up in. I bought my parents' house after my mom passed in 2019. And I am in Kohler, Wisconsin. So if we're going to talk about NFL affiliation, I am a Packer fan.
A Packer fan. Okay, I got you. There's nothing wrong with that. I thought you would say you were a Chiefs fan for a minute there. I was like, oh, hold on, wait a minute.
No. If you're not a Packer fan in the state of Wisconsin, you get kicked out of the state.
You're going to get run out, right? Yeah, I've been a diehard Steeler fan just as long as I've been a Tar Heel basketball fan. So, what did you guys think about the Super Bowl last night?
I thought it was a great game. The call I didn't think was appropriate, but what are you going to do? I mean, that didn't win or lose the game.
No,
you can't be in that position. But it was a great game, I thought.
Yeah, it was a good Super Bowl. It really was.
Yeah, I wanted a high-scoring Super Bowl, and it was a hard-hitting event without a lot of penalties, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's get right into this. Growing up, and I mean, whichever one wants to answer first.
Pop's older, so he gets to go first.
You had to say that, Coach.
We'll do that. When I ask a question, we'll just let Mr. Popson go first. Growing up, I'm sure you were a basketball fan. Who were some of the team you pulled for, or the players that you looked up to that said, I want to be like that?
Oh, geez. Well, growing up here in this area was professionally, it was Dr. J. I mean, WOR TV out of New York. You always got the Nets games on out of in the old ABA, and you never missed a game. They were so exciting. And then he went to Philadelphia. And then I was a diehard Philadelphia fan, and then all the players that came into the Philadelphia program as the years went on, when they were trying to win a championship, like Bobby Jones and Moses Malone and those guys, and Mo Cheeks, and to be able to get to play with some of those guys later on was pretty neat. Like, to say, I followed you guys, it's pretty cool.
So what about you, Coach?
So I grew up, and we had 3 channels when I was growing up. We lived up by Antenna TV, so we didn't get much in terms of sports. And if it was a replay at night of the NBA, and I wasn't allowed up to watch it. So my real basketball indoctrination came when my brother Jeff went to Carolina, and then I became a big time Tar Heel fan. And Walter Davis was my guy because my brother Jeff was a freshman when Walter was a senior. So I was a Carolina kid at age of 10 living in Wisconsin. And And then, my dad would get tickets once a year, and we went down to the Bucks game when I was probably 5, and then Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was playing for the Bucks, so that was pretty exciting.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I'd say those were two of my big time influences. And then Larry Bird, I always enjoyed. He came down. I went to a BC All-Star camp way back in the 1900s, and Pop and I played. We went to different All-Star camps during the summertime. I didn't have AAU growing up, and I don't think Pop did either. But
no.
So I went down there, and Larry Bird came and gave us a shooting clinic. And at that point, I was a big fan because he came in, and I swear he didn't miss a shot the whole clinic.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can attest to the 3-channel thing too. Antenna, and we look, people in our neighborhood had the fancy little things that would turn the antenna on the inside. We didn't have that. We had a pipe wrench, and you would go outside, raise the window, and turn it till you heard the channel, the audio from the channel come in. That was. But when we got one of those things, boy, we thought we were in high cotton then.
Yeah. We had tinfoil.
I watched you guys many a night. I watched you guys many a night on a 13-inch black and white TV in my bedroom, and with tinfoil antenna on it, because we didn't hook that up to the antenna. But when did competitive basketball start for you guys? What age?
Jeez. I would say freshman year in high school.
Okay.
Actually, like competitive, like getting out of like the biddy league stuff.
Right.
Like this is actually we're going head to head here now. We're gonna play. Yeah, probably freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. My competition started in the driveway with my brothers. I was the youngest. Probably
what shaped you better.
Yeah, I was the youngest of 7, and there were 3.
And your daughter and your sisters too.
Yeah. So it was, I wanted to keep up with my older brothers and sisters, so I was out there competing. Now, organized, I would say 7th grade, maybe 6th grade.
Okay, so when did of course you guys started playing. When did you know? I mean, was there any other sports that you played in high school? I mean, football, baseball, or anything like that, or was it just basketball?
Just basketball. Yeah, just basketball.
I played baseball and football my freshman year, and I grew 5 inches my freshman year, and my older brothers came to me and said, "You're done with football." So that was
it. My dad was a football coach for 35 years, and I was a freshman. I could throw the ball on my own, and I wanted to play, but he said, "No, son, you're 6'8", 6'9". You're gonna stay with basketball."
So, at what point did you know basketball was what you were going to be able to go to the next level?
You mean like high school to college, or college to pro?
When did you know? This is I'm really good at this, and when you kind of figured this is what's going to take me to college. I'm gonna be able to play ball.
I think my junior year in high school. Yeah, junior year. I think I could figure out something. I could play somewhere in college at my junior year in high school.
Yeah, I didn't get invited to any camps until the summer of my sophomore, going into my junior year, and I did pretty well in those camps. I think I was MVP of one of the camps, and so then I knew that I had a chance to play somewhere in college. So I probably, and that summer really was indicative of what I was going to do in terms of getting a college scholarship playing basketball.
What's the one signature game in high school that you look back on and say that was probably my best game?
You're digging.
You know that now, 40 years ago, right?
There's a lot of cobwebs there now. Oh man,
it's got to be one that sticks out to you though.
Well, I'll take this, Pop. I won 3 state championships when I was in high school, so I can't. Yeah,
he has 3 games to pick from.
Hold on, let me throw that out there again. Just remember, every
games to pick from.
Yeah, everybody has a scrapbook. So in high school, I have a pretty good scrapbook. So I don't really. I have a favorite season because I got to play with one of my brothers during a state championship. So I think
that's awesome.
my favorite
That's
season,
awesome.
but I can't pick a game out.
Who was that, Jim? Was that Jim?
Yeah, my brother Jim. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
He was 2 years
Yes.
older than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, of course, you guys started getting noticed. Of course, you get recruited, and of course, Carolina came calling. What other schools were out there? Were like, if you had a top three, what other schools were in your top three besides Carolina?
I would say Notre Dame, Kentucky, and Virginia. Those schools back then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back then, Pop, could we visit 5 or 6 schools? I don't remember.
It was 6. I only took 5 visits. Yeah,
Okay.
it was 6, but I only took 5. And there was only 5 schools that I was really interested in. So
yeah,
those are the 5. So
Pop and I were being recruited by
the same schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was, for me, I think Indiana, Virginia, and then the too close to home, Marquette in Wisconsin, along with North Carolina, obviously.
So, what was the key factor in making you pick Carolina?
For me, I just wanted to play against the best, and
Right.
and Coach Smith said, "Hey, we will play against the best," and we did. So that was it for me. That was a selling point for me. He didn't guarantee shit. Like, excuse my language.
No, that's
but
fine.
No, that's Fred.
Like, so okay, Coach. But yeah, I just wanted to play against the best and tried to be the best. And that was a selling point for me.
Yeah, I had been familiar with the program since the age of 10. So, and once I decided I wanted to get away from home, I knew that Carolina was the place I was going to go.
So of course, you got to play for a legendary coach. I mean, probably one of the, if not the greatest college basketball coach of all time, in my opinion. And I'm a little biased being a Carolina fan from the other blue, but talk a little bit about playing for Coach Smith. What was it like playing for Coach Smith?
Well, Coach was always tough. He was old school, disciplinarian, but he was fair though. Like he make everything fair for everybody, but he was tough. But he was a motivator, psychologically, and through practices. Like he would just motivate you by doing little things. And Joe knows that stuff. Like Coach, you probably picked up a lot of things that Coach would use, and you used as a coach now. You know what I mean, Joe? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like the little mental aspects of the game. And I mean, the game is different nowadays, but some of this stuff still applies to this day. That what goes on, and he was ahead of his time. He really was. And the stuff that he did with us as kids.
Yeah, I think that freshman year obviously was the hardest. Pop and I had to battle Brad Doherty and Sam Perkins every day in practice. And, Sam was longer than both of us, and Brad was bigger and longer than both of us. So we had to learn a new way to play. I mean, we had our own individual skills, but we also had to expand our skills. And so you're concentrating on how do I outplay this guy who's an Olympian, an All-American, and then Brad's going to be number 1 pick in the NBA draft. How do you do that? But then you've got to learn all the habits and all of the offensive and defensive foundations that Coach Smith wants from his teams. And it's all new to you. And these guys have a year under their belt or 3 years under their belt. And so you're struggling to understand and make those habits your own. And so the mistakes are piling up, and the pressure is piling up, and the stress is piling up. And then you're getting beat up by Brad and Sam every day in practice. So,
boy, that sounds like the first 2 weeks of practice our freshman year.
Right. That's right.
We were all ready to pack it up and go home, right?
That's right. So you really get tested. And Coach wants you to get tested because he wants competitors out on the floor.
Right.
And basketball is a game of mistakes, and Coach Smith did a great job of building habits so the mistakes were lessened. And that was tough. But after that, it was a joy. Once you got into knowing the habits that you needed and how to play the game the right way, it was a joy to play for him. Our coaching staff, and then the one thing that nobody ever talks about is, or hardly ever talks about, is the fact that coach spent a lot of time recruiting the right person.
Yes.
And so it's easy for me and Pop to get on the phone or see each other and just talk, because we understand and respect each other. And I think it's the type of person that Coach always recruited that made Carolina so valuable in my mind.
Exactly right, Joe. He recruited family members.
Right.
Yeah, he did. Like we've been together how many years? Like decades.
Right.
We still talk. We're family. I consider you a family member.
Right.
You're a brother to me.
Right.
And that's how he recruited, and that's how he built his program, and that's why it was so successful, without a doubt.
Yeah. First impressions when you get to Chapel Hill.
Now?
No, I mean, when
I don't even know Chapel Hill now.
When you got there,
I need a map.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
As a freshman, first impressions.
Oh, go ahead, Coach.
Well, I had been going there since 5th grade, so
that's true.
for me, I cheated. I had seen the campus. I'd been on the campus. We used to spend some time with my brother Jeff during summer when he was in summer school, and we'd go down to Coach Smith's camp. So I knew the place.
He was our tour guide when we got there. Kenny and I got there. Kenny and I roomed together that first year, and successful years after. But Joe, we'd always go to Joe and say, "Joe, where's this place at?" He'd know.
Yeah.
So,
that freshman class coming in that year with you two and Kenny. I mean, that was a great freshman class. What was it like playing with Kenny Smith? I remember at that time, I'd never seen anybody get up the floor as fast as Kenny Smith did.
Well, they don't call him the Jet for nothing, but
right.
I mean, he was the fastest guy ever, other than Phil Ford with the basketball dribbling. He the fastest guy I've ever seen. I've probably joked Joe played longer in the NBA, seen a lot more talent, but he was unbelievable with the ball, Joe. Hey, he was unbelievably fast. Quick.
Well, there's the reason that we had the conditioning program we had before the season, because we had to make sure we could keep up with Kenny.
Y'all could keep up.
Exactly.
So, first practice, you're going out. You guys talked about this a little bit, banging with Doherty and Perkins, but you also got a guy out there, the Jordan guy. I think that was his name. What was it like going head to head with Michael Jordan?
We knew he was Mike, but he wasn't the Mike that he is now.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he was a hell of a player. We knew he had talent and quickness, and his first step was unbelievable. His second step was even more unbelievable, and his flight through the air was incredible. I mean, they don't call him Air Jordan for nothing. They don't.
I always enjoyed looking back on it. I always enjoyed, because Pop was so athletic. I always enjoyed seeing Pop going up with Michael at the rim, because I knew I could never do that. But
yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, you were the only one that could do it. So it's always a learning process. But man, it was fun to see two athletes go at it, because Pop could get up above the rim, and obviously we all know about Michael. But it was special playing. I'll tell you, the first practice, and I don't know if Pop remembers this, but we had a teammate, Steve Hale.
Oh God! Yes.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
And we were doing some drill early on in practice, and Steve went back door, and I met him at the rim. But when I met him, he tried to pull down his elbow onto my arms, and my arms went through him, and I flipped him over on his head and knocked him out.
Yeah.
And So everybody at that point thought I was crazy. So they let me alone for a couple days. So
you got a reputation.
Yeah, I got a little reprieve at that point, but then it all came back, a couple days later.
Were you guys there or was this before you got there, the year Jordan hit his head on the backboard against Duke?
He used to hit his backboard on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember that when he went up
time.
to block a shot and he hit his head on the backboard, had to come out of the game. I was like, oh boy, we're done.
I don't know. I just think back to '84, and that was a hell of a team, Joe. You remember we were rolling, and Kenny got hurt, and that screwed everything up. But some of our best games were in practice, I think, that year.
Yeah, I mean, it was we look back on it. We used to go in the summertime and play pickup games, and we'd have NBA All-Stars plus the our current team, which. When you project it 10 years down the road, we're all a lot of them were all-stars and
incredible. Yeah, it was incredible.
So we had some great pickup games in the summertime.
Great prep work. Yep. Prep work.
What was it like coming out the first time at Carmichael? Coming out, I think that game was against Chattanooga. That was your first home game. What was it like coming out of the tunnel at Carmichael?
Well, I kind of hit my head on that door.
Duck!
I think they still have that door there, right? Do they, Joe? I haven't been to Carmichael.
They have to.
Yeah, probably for the buildings.
Yeah,
but it was neat coming out. That was a great place to play. Yeah. The only thing that I hated about Carmichael, and probably Joe can attest to this, it was the floor was so damn hard.
Whew.
It was like playing on concrete.
Oh,
it really was. It really was. Compared to the Smith Center, which is like playing on air, like that special floor they have now. But Carmichael was like playing out on the blacktop on concrete. It was tough on your knees.
Yeah. And you guys come out, 21-game winning streak, and like you said, Kenny Smith gets hurt against Arkansas and lose by 1 there, but you guys keep on going. Talk a little bit about that. The last game of the year that year, your freshman year, Duke, double overtime win against Duke. Duke's starting to come into their own, and it's not quite the rivalry that it is now yet, but it's getting there. Talk a little bit about that game. How crazy was that game against Duke, the double overtime game?
Yeah, that was nuts. It was crazy shots, crazy situations. Kenny's, he's got this thing on his wrist and whatnot. I think if Kenny's healthy, we blow him out. But
right,
it was a crazy game. Duke was coming on, and they played well. They played well. They gave us a tussle, and Matt hit that shot, and rest is history.
Matt hit the big shot, and they had a really good young team. Probably a year ahead of us in terms of recruiting. They had Allery and Billis and all those guys, Johnny Dawkins and Henderson. So they were starting to come on, and it was just a precursor to what it was going to be for us for the next 3 years. But it was a game of ups and downs and all arounds. And well, if you look back in the history books, I think we won it. So that was the most important thing.
There you go.
First, talk about playing in the ACC tournament in Greensboro, which I miss those days. I guess I'm a old school guy. I miss the old ACC format, and I know things progress to playing on Friday where I could convince my parents to let me get out of class at 12 o'clock and go watch the tournament or listen to it on the radio. Or either we would get the radio in the classroom. We'd had a good teacher that would let us do that. But talk about that atmosphere at Greensboro playing in the ACC tournament.
So can I ask you, are you an old school guy or are you just old like Pop and I?
Now, how old are you guys? Now, I'm getting, you probably got me a little bit because I'm getting ready to hit 50 this year.
Oh God, you're ancient.
But yeah, talk a little bit about playing in the Greensburg Coliseum, the ACC tournament. What kind of atmosphere that was?
It was awesome. It was, yeah, you look forward to it. The ACC tournament was always an exciting time of the year. Like, it's tournament time.
Right.
One and doneness of it was, that's what makes it special, you know. And it's, you always look forward to that. And Greensboro was only an hour away, you know, bus ride away. I mean, but the tournament, we'd stay there in the hotel, and it made it a little bit special. It was fun. It was fun stuff to do, you know. It was exciting. I look back at it, it was just exciting time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the weather starts changing, you know, it's ACC tournament.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
And that's always for me. When I land and when I fly into North Carolina now, I can always smell the pine and the red clay.
Oh yeah,
and usually it's in the springtime, so it's like, okay, we should be playing basketball, shouldn't we?
The trees are budding.
Right.
It's a special time. It really is. It is a special time.
Yeah. And then you got March Madness, which, you know, it was crazy then, but it's not, you know, it's got even crazier now. But going to the NCAA tournament, you guys you didn't go far off. You played the first round game at the Charlotte Coliseum. But what was that atmosphere like for March Madness?
Awesome. You know, I think we played what Penn and or was it Temple or one of those teams, one of those Philly teams, and then we played Michigan our senior year or our freshman year. We played there also. We played a lot at Charlotte. We played a lot of games at Charlotte back in the day in the old Coliseum. The old Coliseum was a neat place to play, man. That was neat. I didn't play too much in the new one, but Joe probably played there a lot more than I did. But the old one I loved.
Yeah, that was a great place to play. It was loud. It was compact. You know, wasn't one of those big arenas you see nowadays. So it was more intimate.
Yeah.
And it was so loud that you didn't have to worry about hearing anything because there's nothing that penetrated the loudness of everybody, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. So you couldn't hear one particular person because there were however many thousand people just screaming, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, the fans, they really did get into it back then. They did.
And there's something about Carolina fans, as everybody knows, is that for the past, I don't know, however many years since Coach started, we travel well. You know, whether we're in Hawaii, we were in Japan, we were, you know, UCLA, we travel well. There's a lot of fans that show up and wear their Carolina blue, whether we're in Chapel Hill or not.
Absolutely. Greatly appreciated too. You know,
yeah.
And you talk about you came to Carolina because you wanted to play the best. Playing in the ACC back then, there was no doubt the ACC was by far the best basketball conference in the country.
Oh, without
no doubt about it. I mean, there was really not an easy game in the ACC that year. You may have some teams that were a little off in years, but talk about playing that level of competition in the ACC night after night.
Wow. We always got everybody's best.
Yeah,
you know, we got everybody's best every night, and that made you better. That made you better as a player, and made you better as a team, and that's what I was looking for, and that's what I wanted, and we definitely got it.
I mean, you go down to teams in the ACC when Pop and I were, you know, juniors and seniors. You got Mark Price, you got John Sally, Bruce Dalrymple at Georgia Tech, you got Lenny Bias and all his guys in Maryland. Duke is coming on with Dawkins and Allery and Billis and Tommy Amaker.
Horace Grant at Clemson,
Horace Grant, Eldon Campbell at Clemson. You got
over at NC State,
Muggsy Bogues at Wake Forest. You got Shackelford and Washburn at State. So, yeah, I'd have to say that we played in if not the best conference, we definitely were up there.
Yeah.
I think you were by far the best conference in basketball, no doubt. Then back in that day, play it. You mentioned limb bias, and me and Mr. Popson talked a little bit before we went on air. What was it like? How I'm sure you had your hands full with him playing against limb bias back then.
He was nothing. He was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
No, the guy was a physical specimen, man. He
Yes,
was off
he
the
was.
charts. Yeah, he was. He was off the charts. He was. Like I said before, you had to have your head on a swivel with this guy because he'd posterize you at any minute. You had to know where he was at all times. He'd make you look silly.
Yeah. And we talked about that play in the Dean Dome that night when he hit the ball off Warren Martin's back and then slammed it in, and that kind of ignited everything for that comeback.
Yeah, case in point. Yep.
Yeah, and talk about one of your other teammates playing with Brad Doherty. I mean, he what can you say about Brad Doherty? I mean, he started 17 or 18-year-old freshman and 17-year-old freshman, and then number one draft pick in the NBA. Well, I mean, what was it like? I mean, because I always believe I'm a football coach. I always talk about in practice, iron sharpens iron, and I mean, I think that would have helped y'all, got y'all pretty sharp in practice.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, Brad was he was tough. He had the size, he had the smarts, he had the shooting ability, passing ability. He had it all. He was the whole package. He was the whole package.
Yeah, we call him Big Train for a reason.
Yeah.
We were just the caboose, but he was the big train. We went as he went. He was one of the most dominant low post scorers to play college basketball, and it was amazing because Pop and I got there. We were a year older than he was, but he had us on experience and everything
he was schooling
else.
us. He was schooling us.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about Planet Cameron now because that's Cameron crazy and all that. But back in the day, I think there was a place that was just as crazy as Cameron is now, and I'm talking about Reynolds Coliseum.
Oh my God, the loudest arena I ever played in. The loudest. I don't know.
They had the noise meter. They had where you had to come up, and I mean, it felt like the crowd was right there on the court behind you. What was it like playing in Reynolds?
The loudest place I ever played in, ever, without a doubt. In my opinion.
Yeah, it was one of those arenas that you knew it was just going to be nonstop noise. But that was the thing Pop said earlier, is that we took everybody's best shot. But we packed every arena we ever played in. I don't think that we went to an arena that wasn't sold out.
No.
And everybody wanted to beat Carolina back then, especially.
I mean, the play down in Clemson, Little John, that was a tough place to play. That got loud too.
Sure,
not on the level of Reynolds, but it was they like you said, they were bringing everything towards us.
Yeah, everything. And we played Wake Forest at Greensboro to help them with revenues. We played Georgia Tech in the Omni in Atlanta to sell out. So I mean, we sold places out and played in front of loud, packed stadiums, which is something.
How about
the
Mecca in Milwaukee when we went home to play at your hometown, man, against Marquette?
Yeah,
our junior year, that was crazy.
Yeah, we had just beaten Duke.
Crazy.
1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3 to open up the Smith Center, and I get my home game. So Coach Smith, one of his recruiting things he would tell you during recruiting is, we'll try to play a home game so your family can come somewhere near where you grew up. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I'm sure Pop said the same thing. And so my home game happened to be against Marquette. Well, what we didn't know when they scheduled it, that it would be, a 24-hour time difference between one game against Duke and Marquette the next day.
It was a Saturday-Sunday doubleheader. I remember it.
Wow.
Yes.
Right.
It was crazy.
So we open up the Smith Center, and we're the number 1 team in the nation, and Duke is either 2 or 3, and we beat them. Steve Hale has an incredible game, and it was an incredible game. And so we take that emotion and everything else, and we go to Marquette and play in front of, and I don't know how many people I had, but I come from a big family, as I noted earlier, and all my cousins and all my distance cousins and all my people who said they were my cousins and showed up. And so we play Marquette, and we're down. I can't remember the exact thing, but we're down 8-10 points with like 2 minutes left, and we get to huddle, and coach tells us, "Yep, we got them right where we want them."
Yep, I remember that.
I'm looking around saying, "What?" And by golly,
hey Joe, do you remember when Coach got hit with a nickel or a penny or something?
Yeah, and
or was
Kenny
that,
got hit with
Coach Guthridge? You got hit.
and,
they were throwing pennies. They were throwing coins.
Yeah,
in the
Kenny
huddle.
got hit at the free throw line. Right,
it was crazy.
Yeah,
that was a tough place to play. The old Mecca.
Yeah. So we end up beating them. But one of the stories is that we're getting on the bus after the game. I don't know if you remember this, Pop, but Steve Hale and I are in the bus, and Mark Isley is one of our managers, and they see somebody pick up one of our bags and start to run off with it.
A pickpocket.
Yeah. So Coach Isley, we call him Coach Mark Isley. And Steve Hill get off the bus.
Started chasing after this guy.
Chasing him, and Coach Isley thought he was getting closer, but then Steve Hill just ran him down and tackled the guy. Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah, that was good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
We talked about playing at Reynolds. You guys got any Jim Valvano stories?
Jimmy V. Oh boy, hey, he was a hell of a coach. It's a shame what happened to him, but he was a hell of a coach. His players loved him. It's a shame what happened, how he went out. But he was a hell of a recruiter. I think he recruited everybody in the country. I think Joe back then. And you all have the same stories of him recruiting. I know he came to my house as he recruited me, and he gave the same spiel that I talked to. I think Bruce Dalrymple. He was being recruited by him too. It was the same thing, but that's how he recruited, and that was his shtick. That was the thing. He was a funny guy though. Great sense of humor. Sense of humor.
Okay, so and you talked about Steve Hale. I mean, of course, that's the funny Steve Hale story. We're going to have him running out of pickpocketer. But what was it like playing with Steve Hale? Because I always thought he was one of the more underrated Carolina players back at the time.
Very underrated.
He could come through in the clutch a lot.
Go ahead, Joe. You would tell about Steve. I could add a little bit.
Steve was 6'4", 6'5", tough as nails.
Yep.
Always won the mile running contest, distance contest for our preseason conditioning workouts, and size 15 shoes, and he could move his feet. He used to frustrate everybody in practice with his ability to get in front of you, with his ability to get the hand on the ball, deflections, taking charges. And then, his offense really came on his junior and senior year. He was a top-notch player from inside and outside. He could finish at the rim extremely well.
Oh, dunk with ease.
Right.
Steve could have played. He could have played probably somewhere in the league back then, Joe, if he wanted to. I'm sure in the right situation. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't quick enough, but his toughness was off the charts. And you look at the kid, and he was very deceptive. Like you would think, oh, who's this pretty boy, coming out? Because he had the long hair and everything. Very deceptive looking, but he'd come out and let me tell you something. He'd get in your shit, man.
Yeah.
He'd get in your shit.
How tough was it on him? Because I remember in the ACC tournament, he got that collapsed lung. Yeah. And then you guys go out to the NCAA tournament, go out to Utah, and he plays with a collapsed lung. I remember I think he had like a flap jacket on. How tough was that on him with that altitude and everything?
I can only imagine. He was tough. That's a test of his toughness. He was a tough buggy. He was a tough son of a bitch, man. He was.
Yeah, he got he had that collapsed lung against Maryland, I think.
Yeah.
And then he came back. We didn't think he'd be back for the season, and like Pop says, it's just a testament to his toughness. he didn't want to leave the game when he had a collapsed lung.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. That was crazy.
So I mean, yeah, one of the toughest players I've ever played with.
Yeah.
And then you guys got to you talked about this a little bit earlier. You got to be a part of opening the Dean Smith Center. You played in the Dean Dome first game, so you played at both Carmichael and the Dean Smith Center. What was that? What was it like that night at that game opening the Dean Dome?
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I just remember it was a classic matchup. Now that we're, so many years removed from it, of Carolina versus Duke, and both highly rated, both had extremely talented rosters, and we went at each other, and it was the first setting where I forget how much Carmichael had, 10,000 people, and then the Smith Center was 22,000.
It doubled, yeah.
So it was just such a different feel in terms of the noise. That's really what I remember about that game.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was neat playing against Duke though in that game and beating them, and still I think we were number 1 and number 2.
I think so. Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah,
and to retain that, it was cool. It was something special.
And you talked a little bit earlier about Georgia Tech, about how they came on. You had Sally, you had Hammond, you had Dalrymple, you had Mark Price, and they moved up to number 2 later in the year. You guys had a wild overtime win at the Omni against them. Bobby Crimmins and company. What was it like playing them?
They were tough. They were tough as nails too. Bobby Crimmins was a good coach. His guys responded to him 100%. They gave you 100% every night when we went against them. And I mean, Mark Price was a special talent. Could shoot that long ball back then.
Yeah.
Probably playing this league now, with Curry and those guys. But they were tough. They were tough out.
I don't remember what year he was, but Ivan Joseph.
I remember him, 54. What I think that was
big guy.
Yeah, he was as strong as they came. And
he was a beast.
So they had him and Sally, and it's like, what? I gotta put up with the string being John Sally, who can block everything, or Ivan Joseph, who I can't even get into lane and move. I can't get my position because he's such a load. So.
And they had Dwayne Farrell too at the 3. Who was tough. Very talented player.
Yeah, I forgot about Dwayne.
You guys had 2 years you had 21 game win streaks. Then another year you had a 16 game win streaks. You went undefeated in ACC your senior year. You guys have to be up there for. I know they play a little bit more now, but you guys got to be up there. Your class has to be up there for close to most wins in Carolina history.
We're number 1. I think we're number 1.
Yeah. As far as anybody's listening is concerned, we're number 1.
Number 1. You're number 1.
Well,
we are.
I think you made the comment that they play so many more games and there's so many more ACC regular season games. But I know that our freshman and senior year were the last team to go undefeated in the regular season. I know that.
Yeah.
And what an accomplishment that was in a league, like I said, the best basketball league in the country, and you guys go undefeated in it. Because I was like, as a Carolina fan, I'm looking at these state fans and these Duke fans like, hey, yeah, you can kiss my, what? I mean, Carolina's undefeated.
Yeah.
But let me see. Talk a little bit about. This is a guy that doesn't get mentioned a lot, and God bless him. Warren Martin. What was it like playing with Warren Martin?
Oh, big Warren. He's
long. Good Lord, boy.
Warren was so long and tall, and I tell you what, he got the ball in the low block. It was over.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. Either you're going to foul him or he's going to score on you.
Right.
One or two things are going to happen. And he's such a nice guy. He still is a nice guy. We're talking like he's dead, but he's a great guy. I think he's coaching, he's coaching and teaching like young kids. Like that's what he was born to do.
Yeah,
and he's doing it, and he's such a great guy, man. I love Warren to this day, man. Every time I see him, he's still the same guy. He's nothing changed with Warren.
Right. So when we played, they still used the post, not unlike today's game, right?
Yep.
So you had to have a different post game with Warren Martin on the floor because he could stand there and block your shot.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And so you had to figure out how to create space, how to put more arc on your shot. All of these things you had to learn. And for us, it was good because we had to do it every day in practice. Yeah. So I think it made me better. I would imagine Pop would say the same thing, but he could literally stand there and block my shot.
It'd be standing flat-footed.
there was one
and then laugh at you.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
Yeah,
I can't remember who you guys were playing, but he blocked like 3 shots in a row. I mean, he was just sitting, just like you said, he was flat-footed and just blocking shots.
Yeah.
You guys end up your last game. You play Syracuse in the tournament. End up losing. What's going through your mind after that last game? Your last game at Carolina.
It's all over. It's done. Yeah, it was disappointing. We thought we had a team that could have won it all that year. It was a heartbreaker. It was tough. It's almost like it's like a death in your family. Well, it's like it happened, and it's like, geez, it's like it was surreal, but you just had to get used to the fact that it did happen, and it was unfortunate, and we moved on from it.
Yeah, it was devastating. To go and have the careers that Pop and I did and our team's success there, you wanted to taste a little bit more of the Carolina magic, and we knew at that point that wasn't going to happen for either of us, and it's a devastating feeling. It was. I remember I must have cried for a good hour in the locker room after.
It was a tough one.
Yeah, it was
a tough one.
And they beat us. It wasn't some hokey call or anything. They beat us that game.
They did. They flat out.
Yeah.
And thanks for bringing it up, Steve.
Yeah, really appreciate it. But let's change the topic and go back to Warren. Warren was so good. Well, Warren was so good that he made me a small forward. Because they weren't going to take Brad out of the lineup, and Warren was so effective at the start of games changing the rim that Coach put me at a small forward at 6'11". I was like, "What?"
Yeah, but man, you could stick that jumper, Joe. That was your game.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. And that helped. That made you a living too, brother.
Yeah, that's exactly. True. I got to thank Warren for that
too. So, and I know the NBA draft's a little bit different than it was back then. But NBA's draft's coming. What are you guys hearing? Are there any teams contacting you back then? Did they contact you or work you out or whatever?
Not me. Maybe Joe. I didn't have any teams contact me. I went straight over to Europe after my senior year. Yeah, I went right to played in France.
Yeah, our class was the first class that teams actually brought in for individual workouts. That's when that started, was 1987.
Yeah.
So I went to Chicago and Indiana, and funny story with Kenny Smith and I. We left Raleigh, Durham, and we flew to LA to get interviewed, worked out by the Clippers, and they didn't pick us up at the airport. And you hear all the stories about the Clipper legend about how it wasn't a very well-run team in the 80s, and they're losing streaks and et cetera, et cetera. And so Kenny and I get on the flight. We fly out there. We go down to baggage claim. Nobody's there. We go right back to the gate like an hour later and get on the same plane and fly back to Chapel Hill. And then I get drafted by the Clippers.
Okay.
Lucky you.
That reaction was not good. Yeah, I'm sure you were like, this can't be your ideal NBA draft day when you're looking like, I got drafted by the Clippers. But at least you got there.
I got drafted.
You got now, Mr. Pop. You did get drafted by the Pistons, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got drafted by the Pistons. But talk about the difference playing overseas than playing like at Carolina. What was how much of a change was that for you?
Well, to be honest with you, going overseas is probably the best thing I ever did. Right out of college, it adapted me to a pro game, a pro type of game. Like coming out of college, I had no idea what a freaking pro game was or anything. And Joe probably tested the same thing going to the pro game. It's all you're going in blind, and but going over there on my own and dealing with certain things. And I had a good guy over there, Bill Sweek. He was my coach in Monaco. I was in the Monaco team in the French division. And Bill Sweek was an old UCLA guy back when they were winning championships. He was on that team, and he was there as a naturalized French coach. And it was great to have that English French translation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a good smooth transition going into that pro. And he taught me so much about the pro game. And then coming out of that, the following year, I went in to try out for the Pistons, and it helped me tremendously. Because if I went right into the Pistons right out of college, I would have been cut probably the first day. No, there's no question. I would have been cut the first day, and I would have been. I don't know what would have happened. I would have been selling furniture somewhere. I don't know. But I was grateful for that. I ended up playing 5.5 years professionally, and here and there, right across the pond and here. But it was a neat experience. But yeah, that I was grateful. The coach got me that job out of college, going over to Monaco, and I was grateful for him to hook me up with that.
Well, you got to play for the Celtics. You talked about you got to play with for a little while. You got to play with McHale and company. What I mean, that had to be, playing at the Boston Garden and playing with a team like that with the Celtics. That had to be.
Yeah, it was neat. It was 90-91 season. It was Bird's last healthy year.
Right.
It was Larry and I had lockers together. And it was like the worst place to have your locker because you could never get dressed because there was always media around your locker. Bird. You were there, Joe. You know what it's all about in the Boston locker room. But it was fortunate to be there in those times with those guys at their end of their careers. Got to be friends with McHale, and it was neat. I was grateful for that year. That was probably one of the highlights of my professional sports career, without a doubt.
And Coach, you had a little bit longer career. You got to go, like you said, play with the Clippers, play with the Nuggets, the Celtics. What was it like coming back and playing for the Hornets, though, coming back to Carolina?
Well, Webster's used to make this dictionary. They used to call it a dictionary. Now people just Google everything. But back when we played, we had a dictionary. And if you looked up the term journeyman in professional sports, it had my picture right there. I visited a lot of organizations during my professional career, which I appreciate tremendously at this point. But playing for the Hornets was unbelievable. The Hive was alive when I played there, and I played with Alonzo. I played with Del Curry. I played with Larry Johnson, Muggsy, Hersey Hawkins.
Wow.
We had a really good team. We just couldn't get past Michael and the Bulls.
The Bulls, that was a lot of people.
Which nobody could, but it was a tremendous professional experience in Charlotte in the early 90s, mid 90s.
That's awesome.
Wow. And then you got into coaching and did some coaching. What was it like transitioning from player to coach?
Well, once the body says you can't do it at the level you want to do it at anymore, you try to find certain outlets that bring you that thrill. I went into business and then started coaching with my brother Jeff at the local high school, and we won a state championship as coaches. And I was like, this wasn't bad. And so the teaching aspect of coaching really got me. So I found out that I really truly loved the game, and I loved teaching the game, and I loved seeing the development of younger players based on the teaching that I could give them on the court. So it was very satisfying. It wasn't the same satisfaction as, going in and busting your butt for 30, 35 minutes in a game. But it was a satisfaction that was really pleasing to me. So that's why I got into coaching.
Yeah,
Carolina needs him back here to teach these post players. I'm watching the game right now.
Yeah, I'm watching it too.
They need a coach to teach these post players.
Yeah.
But the post game is gone though, like Joe said.
It has been. So what are you guys up to now? I know, are you still coaching now, Coach? Oh, I mean, I'm calling you Coach. I'm assuming you're still coaching now.
I coached in the G League until 2020 for the Greensboro Swarm. COVID kind of took us out of the game, and now I'm doing color commentating for the G League team and the home state for the Milwaukee Bucks team in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, called the Wisconsin Herd.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Popson?
I'm in jail. Been there for 24 years. Actually, I am in jail. I work in a prison. I work in Pennsylvania Department of Corrections since '99. But I love it. I enjoy the work. But I'm helping my son now. I'm a volunteer assistant at his high school as a coach, trying to progress his career and move him forward. He's a 6'7" sophomore.
I've been seeing him on your Facebook.
Yeah, so he's got to get stronger. He gets stronger to be a player. So,
he's got hops.
He's got more. He's got more than I have, Joe.
Well, I don't know about that.
He can get out of the gym quick.
Yeah.
All right, before I let you guys go, it's a few quick hitting questions, and then we'll get you out of here.
Okay.
Toughest opponent, like individual opponent, you went up against during your playing career, and it can be more than one. If you got more than one on your mind, that's fine.
Go ahead, Coach.
Shaq, Michael, and Alex English.
Alex English. Wow.
Yeah, those 3 tough.
I couldn't do anything with Alex English. He had a high release. He was 6'9". I couldn't do anything with getting into his shot. So it was like, he'd score 30 easy points on me, and there was no way that I could figure out how to disrupt his offense, which was extremely frustrating to me.
Now, Joe, you played with him, right, at Denver?
No, I played against him. Yeah, I never got to play with him.
He was gone by the time I think Mr. Coach was in Denver.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's all right. Awesome. What about you, Mr. Popson?
The 3 toughest? Oh, well, obviously Lenny Bias would be. I'd put him number 1. Right there, a close second with Kevin McHale, and third is Sabonis over in Europe.
Oh yeah.
He's a handful.
Yeah.
Toughest place to play in. Well, I mean, you said Reynolds was the loudest place you played in.
I would think Carmichael was one of the toughest places to play in, but I would rank that number 1.
I'll say this on the road.
That's kind of biased on my part, but obviously Cameron and Reynolds and the old Cole Fieldhouse.
I forgot about Cole Fieldhouse.
Tough place to play.
Yeah. I never. I don't know, because we packed stadiums. I never felt like it was tough to play.
Right.
The toughest place that I had to play was the sports arena in LA, because there were only 3,000-4,000 fans, and that was such a change from coming from where Pop and I played in front of packed out to play in front of a couple thousand people in a professional game in the late '80s in LA. That was tough.
You have a good point there, Joe. That's
without
a doubt.
Did you ever say anything to like any of your teammates like that with the Clippers? Like, what? I mean, what's the deal here? I mean, I played with like 3 times as many people out here at Chapel Hill than this. What's the deal here?
No, I mean it was just a given.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point,
right.
we weren't the Lakers in LA.
Right. Who talked the most smack, the most crap to you? I mean, who's the best smack talker that you went up against? I'm sure Mr. Popson probably talked a little.
Geez. Well, I think one of the best smack talkers I've ever seen and had the privilege of playing with was Larry Bird.
Yeah, I've heard some stories.
Yeah.
The
Joe,
old
you've probably seen it, Joe. You played against him many times. But I mean, Mikhail was a shit talker. Like, he talked major shit. Like, that was part of his game. So he tried to get in your head. All those Pistons players, like I don't know, Lambeer and all those guys, they talked a lot of shit. You know, Mahorn, all those guys. You know, but that was a different era.
Yeah, I just remember the Larry Bird 3-point contest story where he told him, you know, who's going to be runner up, and he never took his warm up jacket off and won the 3-point contest. He looked at all those guys and said, "Who's going to be the runner up to me?"
Yeah,
he could flat out shoot,
and then he could back it up. That's the difference. He could back it up. Yeah. What about you, Coach?
Well, we had one of the all-time greats that we played with in college. I mean, he could intimidate you with. He was a lot like Coach Smith. Michael could intimidate you with his voice first, and then his actions later. Coach Smith was unbelievable at using the minimal amount of words to let you know that he was not satisfied with your performance. And Michael somehow got that talent, and I don't know if it was from Coach Smith or it was just something that he was born with.
The only thing difference with Michael, he would use the F word.
I did interview Derek Wittenberg one time, and he was telling a story about Lorenzo Charles trying to guard Jordan, and Jordan was telling him, you know, what he was going to do. He said, "This next play, I'm going to get the ball in the corner. I'm going to drive the lane. I'm going to reverse it, and I'm going to make the shot." And Lorenzo Charles looked at him like, "You're crazy," and said he went out there and did it. And said Lorenzo Charles come back to Wittenberg and said, "That fool just told me exactly what he's doing, and I couldn't stop it."
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how good he was.
So, for it, last question: your favorite memory at Carolina?
Wow, so many.
Yeah, that's not a fair question because we had so many. It's you can't
yeah, so many.
And there's so many that we can't talk about.
Talk about it. Do I need to go off the air?
Oh, you definitely. You better. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the next memory, and I'm looking for the next time to meet my brother right here. I'm talking.
That's
to.
Right.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely.
I know I've asked Mr. Popson a few times, and he's probably like, "Who is this guy messaging me about this?" And then when I found Mr. Wolf on LinkedIn,
thought you were a woman, to be honest with you.
Well,
sorry.
Sorry to disappoint you. But you know, and then when I figured, I said, you know, if Mr. Wolf agreed to do it, I said, let me ask Mr. Popson if he would like to come on and you know, because you two were. I don't know how it was for you guys back in college, but I always looked at Popson and Wolf like the duo. I mean, they always went together. But I sure appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
No problem, man. My pleasure.
And guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you guys again. Guys, that's been Mr. Dave Popson and Mr. Joe Wolf on the Final Score.
I'll be safe.